This episode is sponsored by National Technology Management. Visit trustntm.com for more information. I'm Kelly Siegel, and this is Harder Than Life, a podcast about self-love, self-awareness, business, and health. We tell outrageous stories and boil everything down to simple, practical advice you can start using today. Let's get living. Nikki C in the house. Nick Connor is a winner and here on the Harder Than Life podcast to provide the blueprint to success. All the way live from Estonia. Growth never sleeps, well, doesn't sleep much. Where exactly is Estonia, man? I thought you were messing with me until I heard you on Shawnee French's podcast. What are you doing there?
Man, we're up here in the Baltic. And when I met my wife 6 years ago now at a conference, and she told me she was from Estonia, I had to act like I knew where it was, but I had to Google it later on. But we're up here in the Baltics, man. We're right on the border of Russia, right below Finland, above Latvia, Lithuania. Obviously, people are more aware about what's happening up in this part of the world because of everything going on in Ukraine. But for the most part, everybody I meet is like, what in the world is going on up in Estonia? But most Americans, like myself, are here because we've met a beautiful Estonian woman. Estonia is known for having the most supermodels per capita of anywhere in the world. So, a little bit of a flex for us up here.
Oh, yeah, I'm on my way. I'm on the next flight. But I will tell you, if you guys don't follow Nick, follow him on Instagram, and you see how beautiful his wife is. It's just Nick Connor on Instagram. It'll be in the show notes. But yeah, I figured it had something to do with women. We do crazy things for love. But what kind of conference were you at when you met her?
So my first gig as a coach was as a sales coach for a company called Southwestern Consulting, oldest direct sales company in the U.S. They're really well known throughout the U.S. For sending kids out, college age kids, to sell books door to door. Maybe some of your listeners have had kids knocking on their door selling them stuff. That was the company I was with as a coach, though, in their sales consulting division. And I was on my way out. I was with them for 4.5 years. I was on my way out to start my own coaching business, to work with men. And at the very last conference, my wife was leaving the book field, coming into the consulting division, and we met at that very last conference. So I'm glad I stuck around just long enough to have the best takeaway possible, man.
Nice. If you are listening to this on Spotify or iTunes, you got to head over to YouTube and see how beautiful this man is. So I love the gray and the beard. The skin is perfect. So winning looks good on you. We're going to dig into that. You're a speaker, a coach, a founder of the Academy of Maximize Potential, AMP for short. What is your story, and why does your story matter, Nick?
Well, number one, I think everybody's stories matter. We all have a story to tell, and the more comfortable you get telling it, I think the more you're going to experience the things that you want in your life. My story was one of it. 27 years old, I'd achieved my dream of playing Division I and getting a taste of professional sports. And I experienced probably the biggest adversity in my life when I was told I could no longer play sports anymore at 27 years old. Didn't know what I was going to do with my life, and decided after reading The Alchemist cover to cover one night that I wanted somehow to make people feel the way I felt reading that book. And The Alchemist would become the gateway to personal development for me, both as someone who needed it, wanted it, sought it out for my own gain. But early on, I always read these books and saw these videos even early on from the lens of how can I be the person delivering that message? And I don't know if you can relate to this, Kelly, because you're certainly a messenger, and you're clearly somebody who's grabbed onto personal development. I don't know if you had that in you early on, but for me, I wanted to share that message that I was reading almost more than I wanted to apply it to my own life, which got me into some trouble. But personal development's been a part of my life now for the last 15 years. And it's pretty much everything that my life runs through is consuming personal development, delivering personal development. My wife's a coach. I'm a coach. It's how we live, man.
Do you have children?
I do. We have a 3-year-old daughter. Her name's Camila. And so new parents, doing our thing, man.
That's awesome. There's nothing like having a daughter. They just They calm you down. The Alchemist, that's not Siddharth, right? I read Siddharth and The Alchemist. I can't remember. Tell the listeners what the moral of the story is for The Alchemist. I can't remember.
Well, it's Paulo Coelho is the author, and it's about a shepherd boy who's living what he thought was his dream. He
Is
had
it Siddharth?
received an inheritance. What's that?
Is his name Siddharth?
I
Can't
can't
remember.
recall his name. I know that he was a shepherd. That's how I've always remembered the story. But he was living what was ultimately the dream at the time. He received an inheritance, some gold coins. He bought a flock. He was traveling, and he felt this call to adventure that there was something more out there for him, and goes on, embarks on this journey, leaves behind what would be most people's dream at that time. Left that behind to go on this epic adventure. Along the way, meets many mentors, and ultimately finds himself. But that was, man, when I read that, I was at a place where I had convinced myself that I was never going to live the life that I really wanted, which was a professional athlete and all of the status and all of the attention and all of the things, riches that I believe were going to come with that. And so when I read that, it it awoken that ability to dream again and to go on a new adventure for me. And that was a huge catalyst in my life, man, reading that book.
From what I remember, I read it at a very inopportune time. It was during the pandemic here in the United States, and basically what I took away from it was just be. Life is you can go searching for everything, but life is happening right here and right now. And
Mm-hmm.
pay attention to it and enjoy it. People say you only live once. I say we only die once. You live every day, and you have a choice of what you're going to do and how you're going to live that day. And so all too often we're too busy worried about what somebody else is doing, and Nick, you're more handsome than me. Instead of me just saying how beautiful you are and accepting and loving it, I'm gonna tear you down because it makes me feel better. And it's just sad. So I remember reading that book, and it is Siddharth. That's the main character's name. And he goes through all these trials and tribulations only to end up back where he was and realize it was the journey. So it's a great
Yeah,
book. It's hard to read. I remember that. And I'm going to go back and read it. So uh,
great book.
we talk about loving. We always throw out loving yourself. It's thrown out all around these days. In fact, in the past, we used to call that man, he is full of himself, cocky or arrogant. Would you provide your perspective on the difference of all this?
Well, I think that the most important thing is, to me, the cocky arrogance thing came up a lot when I was growing up as an athlete. Um, I think anytime you're talented in something and you work hard at it, and you have good people around you that are encouraging you to pursue something, you can come off cocky and arrogant, and it can be completely innocent. Um, and then there's a little bit of ignorance there too, right? I grew up in Idaho, Boise, Idaho. Went to high school at you know a 5A school, but I wasn't playing against guys in California or Florida. And so when I got to college and I started competing against better athletes, I was humbled, right? And so my behavior started to change. So I really think it's this whole conversation around, like, people that are called arrogant or cocky is, it's really limited by their exposure. Who's calling you cocky? What I found is there's no person that's more successful than you are that's ever going to talk down to you or judge you. Ultimately, at the end of the day, how do you feel about you? And self love is an important thing. Self confidence, it flows through our ability to love ourselves, and it starts with self esteem. Like, how do you feel about you? And growing up, I grew up in a house full of women, so I had a lot of compassion growing up. I had a lot of coddling and a lot of care, and what that created was some laziness, and I took some things for granted, some natural ability, some natural talent. I didn't work hard, Kelly, and later on in life, I pursued big things, but I couldn't figure out why I wasn't succeeding. And when I wasn't succeeding, I started seeking compassion, and that wasn't working for me as a grown man. And what I learned through that was that we need compression also. We need somebody to tell us the truth. And so part of self love, self worth, self esteem, creating unconditional confidence instead of conditional confidence, I think of it that way, um, is to tell yourself the truth and look yourself in the mirror when you're not getting what you want and doing the
Boom.
work to evolve. And that ultimately is the greatest form of self-love. You know, like in the work I do, working with men, the men that are the most unhappy are the men that are uh, the least self-aware. They're
Well, Nick, let me cut in there. I believe
yeah,
well, that's good for men and women. I think everybody's that. It's denial. You know, the denial is it's not a river in the Amazon. It is, you know, just from one finger pointing away, three are pointing right back at you, man. It's the first freaking chapter of my book, Self Awareness, and
yeah.
it's there ain't nobody freaking doing anything to you, man. It's you doing it to you. So I agree, and that's why I had you on, because we're going to get deep into this, but a lot of what you do is I just literally I wake up and I embody it, and I don't even think about it. I'm just wondering, do you drink alcohol?
Yeah, I dabble with it, and I'm at that stage where I've given it up for multiple months at a time. I've 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 done this several times with alcohol, with sex, even before I got married, where I've given it up to get a healthier relationship with it. And I'm in that place now where alcohol is it's losing its luster for me. I know you don't drink, and I hear what you're sharing around your experience with that. But I drink every now and again. But my relationship with alcohol is very, very different than it was even say a year ago.
Now I heard your father passed away from it, right? How old were you?
That's recent. That was it'll be 8 years. It'll be 8 years since his passing, coming up in November.
I'm sorry to
Yeah,
hear
he
that.
he struggled
Eight
with
years.
alcoholism. Yeah,
8 years is
yeah.
it's my dad's been gone 24 years, and it still feels like yesterday. It's unfinished business, man.
Yeah, I would love to know what you mean. I had a curious, I had a very fortunate experience with my father, where prior to his passing, he came and lived with me for a year. He always struggled with alcoholism, and then he got into prescription pain medication, and that led to a heroin. I don't
Oh,
want to say it was an addiction, but he got into heroin because it was just a cheaper alternative to these pain pills, man. And so anyway, moved him out to Charlotte, North Carolina, to come live with me from Utah, and we spent a year together. And so we had a lot of opportunity to resolve some things that I think most men don't have the opportunity to resolve with their fathers.
man, you just if you're watching the video, you triggered me there. That one, I would kill to have a year with my father. He was a great man. He just was too smart, and things
Mm.
came too fast and too easy, and he got hooked on that heroin and just never looked back, and wasted his life. And that's what happens. What happened to your father? And I give utmost respect and thank you for sharing, because this people need to hear this, because my MO, my whole mantra of the Heart and Life is, once if you think you have an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, if it is even a discussion, you do. So once I eliminated it, my life got so much better. And guys, I got to remind people, I wasn't some raging alcoholic. I didn't sit down and drink every single night. It just was a correlation to all the problems I had in my life. Whenever there was a problem, alcohol was around. It wasn't the
Yeah.
causation, it was the correlation. And when I just said,
Mm.
screw it, I'm done, look at what's happened. My popularity has gone through the roof. Everybody's listening. We're about to launch a freaking fitness portal. Instagram's blowing up, and you know, it's all for charity. My IT business is going. You're drinking poison and expecting other people to die and blaming everybody else. So that's my 2-second rant. But did I hear you say you grew up in a house full of women? Tell me there's some beautiful sisters that you got running around.
Yeah, man. Two sisters, older and younger. It's been really cool actually to see my older sister, who I've never really had the closest relationship with. I've always been really close with my younger sister, but here in the last year and a half, she started to come around and ask some questions about personal development, and we got her on a training and nutrition program, and she's dropped close to 30 pounds, and she's waking up at 4 a.m. and hitting the gym, and single mom,
does
just
does
oh,
that work?
real
4 a.m. gyms?
hey, I don't. Do you have kids? Do you have children?
I have a daughter who's 14 years old.
Okay, so you have a daughter, and then well, maybe you've experienced this with siblings in general, you observe this, that the people that are closest to us are generally the last ones to come around when we're, out here sharing a message, and, they know us as, my sisters know me as, who I was in high school, and, shoot, even after college for a few years. So, it's cool to have her come around and start to get on the program and see results from it. But yeah, two beautiful sisters, man. Beautiful mom. My mom's down in Florida, close to you. She's in Naples.
Yeah, you got to
And
come visit me when you come. I know you'll be here. So do not. Besides, I got to talk to you anyways. I was reading when I was doing show prep about the nutrition, and I want to understand that, because this this health and wellness portal that we're developing, we're going to have separate people that are affiliated with us that we're going to make specific for the portal. So I need a nutritionist, and I want to know more about your blueprint, because what we're going to get into right now, head over to academyofmaxpotential.com. It's Nick's program. It's to provide the listeners the detail on your old school discipline, hard work, and follow through. They've heard my sick and twisted habits and rituals. What does easy for me to say, what does an AMP attendee going to hear from Nick Connor on his daily routine and recommendations?
Well, the AMP is really about maximizing your individual potential. So what does that mean? A lot of people talk about that, which is why I named it the Academy of Maximized Potential, because I'd hear that a lot from clients that would come into my space, men and women. I feel like I'm not where I want to be. I feel like I should be at a different place at this season of my life. And so I've taught a lot of things in the last 10 to 15 years to help people close that gap. Skills, sales skills, speaking skills. And what I realized is that you can teach people a lot of tactics, but if they're not right with themselves, it's very difficult to get them to utilize those skills, to put themselves out there, to be able to progress professionally, personally, in general. So I've stripped everything away, and I just asked myself, what has worked for me in the past? And fitness and nutrition has been a cornerstone of my life, my entire life. And I took it for granted until about 2 years ago, when I was on a trip with my wife. We were in Dubai, and we were there for 3 or 4 weeks and had this incredible vacation. And I was embarrassed by the pool to take my shirt off. I'd gained 25 pounds. I put so much energy and attention into building and growing my business. And I was in a bad place, which I shouldn't have been. I was here in Dubai. We're celebrating beautiful wife, beautiful baby girl. It was an incredible experience. And it was a wake up call for me that I'd let myself go. That foundational thing was so important to me, and I had let it go. And so I started coaching my clients around fitness and nutrition as a core pillar of their daily process. You want to be a better husband and father? Well, your wife's not listening to you, or your husband's not listening to you. Are you listening to yourself? Are you getting up when you say you're going to get up? Are you going to the gym when you say you're going to go to the gym? Are you doing what it is that you said you were going to do, keeping promises to yourself? And many of them, the answer was no. And so we got to work on those foundational things. And that started to really change people's experience externally. And so what I learned from that is the world is not as it is. The world is as we are. So we see the world through our own lens. And if our lens is foggy because we're breaking promises to ourselves, we're out of weight, we're overweight, we're overweight, out of shape, we can't see the world for as it really is. So that's what we do at AMP, man. We help people commit to basic, fundamental, foundational alignment with who it is that they want to be. And the closer they walk in that, the more their external environment starts to change.
Here, man. I'm a walking freaking talking 215-pound freaking mass of that. I agree with all that. I'm glad you're on. Where the hell did you put 25 pounds on that body? How tall are you?
6'1". I've always had bigger legs. It just creeped up, man. It just creeped up. But the truth is it was so subtle and gradual. This is 20. Shoot, man. I don't know what.
Is it right around the time you had your kid, right?
20. Yeah, it was leading up to having baby girl, and just gradually it just crept up, man. And the funny thing is, I look back at the pictures when we were in Dubai, because I had started to try to address it. And I actually thought I looked decent in Dubai until I saw some pictures. I'd hired a photographer to film some content, and he was following us around for a few days. It was a great experience. But I saw the photos and I was like, holy cow, this is the first time I've seen myself with my shirt off in a while, and I do not look good. So I had to
Wow.
kick that back in gear, man. And
What do you weigh
it
now?
was a good wake up. I'm about 193. So I got down all the way to 178 when I cut
Oh,
down. Yeah, I got that. That's the lightest I'd been since before college. And I mean, I was 7% body fat, and I was caloric deficit for 8, 9 months, and really on top of every detail. But I've been reversing out. I want to get up to 195, 198, and stay around 9 to 10% body fat. But feeling good, man. I love watching. Hey, man, what you do? Your morning coffee. Getting in there, being ripped, just doing your thing on the boat. I love seeing it, man. And
bro,
props to you for staying in such incredible shape
I
throughout the
appreciate
years.
that, and I receive that. I tell you, I get brutalized for that. From not only I used to get brutalized by my friends. Everybody realized, oh, he ain't stopping, so we're just gonna join him. There's one thing about me, man. I can't explain why I do things. I just do them, and I don't stop. And you asked earlier, end of the day, I've been given this gift of oration, of this body, of this vessel, and of this platform, and I'm going to use it for good.
Yeah.
And our reason for doing this is to donate $150,000 to charity this year. We're ramping that up to $1 million each year, and I'm not going to stop until we get there. So if somebody wants to knock me for standing in my frickin' underwear, they're lucky I'm not naked, because that's what's coming next. I'm not afraid. I'm real proud of my body. I work hard. Work works. I'm there 5 a.m. every morning. No questions asked. Today I was running a little late. I went to my home gym and pounded out some shoulders. So the number one discipline, personal development discipline in my life, and I believe in your life that I just heard you say, is physical fitness. What do you believe number 2 is?
Well, it's my faith, man, and it's connectedness uh, to for me, it's God. And when I in 2011, I was turning 30, moved to Charlotte. That was one of the first things that I pursued, and that's been a massive part of my journey ever since then, man. So that's a big part of the morning process for me, is connecting to source every morning, creating that silence, solitude, and stillness, man, slowing things down, getting some separation. That's why I wake up early in the morning, earlier than my responsibilities, so I have that space.
Oh yeah,
It's
that's
been a
right. That's your big
godsend.
claim to fame. What is it? 358?
Yeah. 3:58, man. 3:58 a.m. That, documenting the journey on social media. That was a great accountability piece. I'd always told myself, like most people, I'm not a morning person. And after that wake up call, man, I had to change some things. I had to get real honest with myself, and uh, needed that accountability. So I started sharing it on social media. It turned into a whole thing, man. I'd post, I've actually stopped doing it here recently. But I'd post 3:58 a.m. Then I'd grab my cup of coffee. I was basically documenting my morning routine every morning, and that was great to establish the habit and the routine. And I've since obviously been able to share that with other people, and clients, and just people that follow. I get pictures all the time, man. People sending me pictures waking up early, and it's pretty cool.
What's the time change there? What time is it now?
7 hours. I'm 7 hours ahead of you. It's creeping up on 4:30
Okay.
p.m. here.
Okay. So I love the faith. I used to say I was God curious, and then I just started talking to God, and things started falling in alignment. So there's a higher power. I believe in it, but I'm not gonna force it on anybody. If
Sure.
there's definitely, we're all energy, and there's something out there that is guiding that energy, whether it's source, whether it's universe, whether it's God, whether it's Jesus, whatever it is, there's something out there, and I'm going to acknowledge it. But since I've surrendered to more of God, and things are starting to line up. So congratulations on that. What I believe to be number 2, and I didn't explain the question well, was what can somebody do besides surrender? It would, to me, it's always keeping the promises you make to yourself. You said it, but I wanted to reiterate that. Always keep your promises. And when I say I'm getting up to do something, consider it done. It's just like that. And I don't negotiate with myself. I don't negotiate with anybody, but let alone myself. So work works. Again, head over to academyofmaxpotential.com to learn more, and definitely sign up for the no-cost 15-minute level up call with Nick. This man is brilliant. He's achieving results, And I wouldn't have had him on the podcast if he was any less. There's so much more to you, Nick. And I forgot, I wanted to say this back. I was doing some show prep because I have 3 podcasts back to back to back, and I somehow ended up on a picture when my daughter was born, and my baby's mama took a picture of me painting the bedroom, and it's the only time in my life I've been completely out of shape because she had the worst pregnancy ever, throwing up, vomiting, and it was my job to keep her healthy so my daughter could be born. So I didn't work out for like 4 or 5 months. I've never seen a blob like that, and I'm actually going to post it. I'm going to post that before and then after, because the moment, I'm not kidding you, the moment my daughter was born and she was healthy, now she was 4 pounds 3 ounces. That's how tough that her pregnancy was. The moment she was born, I signed up for the local close gym and went gangbusters. That's how my mind works. It is a on-off switch. Unfortunately, nowadays, for the last 5 years since I quit drinking and got into this personal development, it's always on. And I get you're too intense, you're too, you're not for me. I don't care.
Yeah. See ya.
I'm good. And I'm great at the boundary stuff anymore. I used to try to freaking convert everybody, and it's none of my business what you think about me. And I think you subscribe to that as well. And so let's get into some personal stuff about you. What's the most important decision you've made in your life?
Well, the decision that I made to move my dad to come and live with me was a massive decision. I didn't realize how big of a decision that would end up being. I mean, I have a lot of peace in a very situation that a lot of people, it tanks a lot of people's lives to lose a parent to suicide or somebody that close to you to suicide. So that was a massive decision. My faith, to decide to accept Christ into my life, and then my wife, making the decision to marry someone who lives in Estonia. I mean, those are 3 massive decisions that you talk about a 90-degree turn in life. Those three decisions really put me on that trajectory in a positive way.
Thanks for sharing again. Did your father commit suicide?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm going to take 2 seconds. I'm very passionate about suicide. And when people take their life, they think that there's no other option. And I'm just going to take 2 seconds and just say that there are many other options. You can fix anything but death. And if you're feeling less than and you're thinking that there's no other options, please reach out to Nick or to me or to Emily, because you matter. And there are options. And there are ways to fix this. And you are loved, you are matter, and you are here for a reason. So I'm really sorry to hear that, Nick. And thank you for sharing, because that's going to make a difference in somebody's life that's listening to this. So, man, I'm going to deviate for a second. I love that you got to spend a year with your dad. There's so many questions I have for my father right now. I remember being a young man, and my father would absolutely treat me like an adult. And I was young. I was way too young. I was an adult. And he would talk to me like I was an adult. And I do that to my daughter now. And, there's so many things I would like to ask him. So many things I like to say to him. And, I was 24 when he died, and I just didn't know what I didn't know. I had this chip on my shoulder, and I was going to go on and drink for another 15 or 20 years till I quit. And, obviously he drank himself to death and basically committed suicide without doing it. Mm. And there's just so many questions I want to ask. What did you solve? Because I'm going to live vicariously through you for the year. What did you solve that allowed you to be at peace with your father?
Well, I think we all put, thank you for, man. We all put our fathers, men and women to a degree, on the top of the totem pole. And typically, no matter how they treat us growing up, we're the last ones that are going to take them down from the top of that totem pole. And for me, I idolized my dad. I wanted him to be my hero. And I always pursued a relationship with him, even though he let us down, my sisters and I, time and time again growing up. And so when he came to live with me, I had an opportunity to ask him why he did that. and what was causing that. And ultimately, the peace came because I stopped viewing him as my father and started to view him as a man, which at that time I was kind of coming into my own as a man and doing my best really to figure out how to do that. And so I was able to see some of my own journey uh, mirrored some of his journey at the time. And I thought to myself, wow, at 24 to have 3 kids, how would I have acted? I was trying to play professional baseball. I was, to have 3 kids at that age. I mean, I was out there running around with girls and thinking that was, so I started to think that way and started to give him a break, a bit of a break, instead of starting to blame him for some things later in my life when things were really starting to get difficult, which I think is the easy thing to do, use our parents as a scapegoat to why we're not succeeding. So I was able to forgive him prior to him, leaving and deciding to take his own life. So it was we laughed, man. We were staying in a 700 square foot apartment. I was trying to build my business. I was, broke, but I had him in this apartment. We laughed. We watched movies. We watched ball games. We got into physical altercations because it got heated at times. But that was one of the greatest years of my life looking back on it. So, but you're right. I think ultimately for people that get into that place where they feel like they don't have a choice, sometimes the thing that they're trying to reconcile is the body of work that they've put together, especially if alcohol and drugs was part of that journey. And I think for my father, I will never know this, but I think it makes a lot of sense to me that when you look at your body of work and you're no longer sedated, you're no longer foggy because of the drugs and alcohol, you got to really face the truth. And sometimes that truth it feels so heavy, like you don't have a chance to maybe undo some wrongdoings and to resolve some things in the past from your behavior. And so what I always tell people and encourage people to do is to understand that we're here to forgive. We want to forgive as your children, as your brothers, as your sisters. We want to forgive you. We want to see you win and succeed. There's no amount of wrongdoing that we will not forgive if you will come to the table and be willing to say that you want forgiveness. And so I think forgiveness is such a powerful thing to offer people in the world because that's what so many people need and want.
Again, thank you for sharing. I had no idea we're going to go on this path, but it's triggering the heck out of me. And if you're watching it, I'm tearing up a little bit because I just realized some of the things that you said are not true for me, and it's sad. My father wasn't my hero, and I just this many years old when I just realized that, and it just hit me hard. I look at him, and I've forgiven him, and I got a lot of compassion. I'm gonna come out of my mouth right now is not gonna sound compassionate. I think he was a coward. And I think that he was smart enough to overcome what he did. But again, everything happens the way it's supposed to be. My body is tingling right now. And I would tell you when I say that, my biggest disappointment in people that are close to me are when they give up and when they don't try and when they're acting like a coward. And when you're not trying and you're tearing people down, you're a fucking coward. You're acting like a coward. And I don't freaking subscribe to that shit. And notice I just swore twice, which I never swear, because it's so passionate to my life. My dad could have made a difference in this world, and he gave up. And I'll be damned if I'm going to give up, especially if somebody tries to stop me. I'm an unstoppable force. And I'm going to partner with you, and we're going to do some great things because I love you, and I just feel your energy all the way from Estonia. So thanks for bringing that out of me. I will tell you the reason why I asked you those questions, it wasn't to trigger me, of course. It was most people are fighting that battle about their parents, and a lot of people are in denial about it. Like, I grew up a great life. My parents did the best they could. We're getting screwed up somehow. As great as you two coaches are, you're going to screw up your kid somehow. But hopefully you'll give her the tools she needs to be able to discern what's right and wrong. And that's kind of what I've hoped to do with my daughter. Now I can tell you how I screwed up my daughter. The bar is really, really high, really high. So you could never tear me down because inside me, I'm the hardest I am on myself than anybody else. So I want, if you're drinking the poison again and expecting somebody else to die, look no further than your parents. So if it's women, it's usually the father. Men, it's usually the mother. Like my mother, she never gave me any love. So what do? I searched for love and found out that, I can provide it myself internally. I don't need it from anybody else.
Mm.
And then the last
Yeah.
thing I didn't say was the progression of drinking. If today you're a youngster, and a lot of youngsters, my daughter's 14, 15, a lot of the kids listen to this and watch this. If you have one drink today and then it becomes 2 tomorrow and 10 in 5 years and then 20 and 10, it progresses. So if you think that you don't have a problem, the easiest way to not have the problem is just not even partake. So it progressed and killed my father. And then when it sounds like your father quit, and then the emotions all came and he couldn't handle that. So there is no real way to deal with things except sitting in your shit. So
Yep.
again, thank you for sharing. Let's lighten the mood a little bit. How about we tell us about some hobbies and interests outside of personal development?
Hey, man. Yeah. But, hey, love ain't lies, brother. We just keeping it real with people. But I love what you said there at the end there. At the end of the day, man, like, nobody wants to be a coward. And I think it's important because I felt the same way about my father. In fact, that's one of the conclusions I've arrived at. Is that anybody who's not willing to face their fears when they're in right body and mind, fully capable to face their inadequacies, to tell the truth and be honest when there is clarity around what needs to be addressed, is a coward. And ultimately, the happiness that we're going to achieve in our life is, I believe, commensurate with our ability to look into those dark places of our lives and address it. That to me is the great adventure of life. That is purpose. You know, we talk about purpose and all those things, man. Like, people got on me the other day. Did a post about happiness. Like, happiness isn't the goal for me. It's being purpose filled. I appreciate happiness, and I cherish those moments because they are fleeting. They are fleeting moments. Like, I would much rather be purpose filled, mission driven, and on a path, and like thanking my higher power for the adversities that come into my life, taking extreme amounts of responsibility for the challenges as much as the successes. And ultimately, that's made me very fulfilled in my life at 41 years old.
41, you look beautiful. So what you just said is the personal development mantra. Basically, happiness for me is being in total alignment with the person I want to be and the person I am.
Yeah.
And when I'm doing it, it's that space for everybody that causes the driver to drink, the shame, and all the bad emotions and feelings. And if you can bring that together, and that's done with these habits and routines that we've talked about, working out, journaling, meditating, it sure in the hell doesn't close the gap with drinking and drugs and sex and scrolling on social media. It makes you feel good for a minute, but it's making that gap bigger. So that's the cheat code in life, is bring that gap
100%.
in, and that's what you'll learn at the Academy of Max Potential. Sorry, I
Yes,
had to throw it in
sir.
there. I just love people that are doing well and trying to give back. I think you're a good person. You're doing it for the right reasons. And, there's a lot of people in our space that are pretenders, man. And I'll put
Yeah.
I'll put my life up against anybody's and say, come on. We're about to get a filming crew and watch every single thing I do. It's like, I don't care, man. Watch. I'm the real deal Holyfield. This is on.
Yeah.
I don't cheat. I don't lie. I don't steal. And I have that difficult conversation with people. I'm not afraid. I'm afraid of nothing, which is another question. What's your biggest fear?
I've got a lot of fears, man. The thing that I'm addressing right now the most in my life is that the ultimate the ultimate success at the end of my life is going to be that at every peak or every milestone that I reach, I'm looking for that next peak, that next adventure, that next milestone. And what I've learned just having conquered a few of those peaks is that there's a part of me that has to die. There's a persona that needs to die
Mm.
so new one can evolve. And that's created some fear in me. Like, I'm in a place now where there's multiple areas of my life that are good, but they're not great. They're not where I want them to be. And I have to address that I'm not satisfied, that I'm not comfortable with some areas of my life, and doing that work to build, to grow, to kill some things off that have worked to get me to where I'm at. That creates a feeling of fear. I wake up a lot of days feeling fear. What I've learned is not to allow that to change how I behave. And so there's a lot of things that I fear, but that doesn't change how I show up. And that's a massive shift for me in the last year and a half, man.
Let's talk about that. Fear is feedback. If I feel the slightest amount of fear, I'm running right at that. That's probably where you pick up that whole crazy. But I don't feel. I have that same feeling, and I liken it to be anxiety, but it's not. It's actually gratitude. So if I feel I'm nervous about something or something's out of alignment, I dig it way down. It turns out most of the time now in my space where I've achieved in my level of healing and work that I've done on myself, it usually is, I'm grateful. I'm grateful that, like, I had anxiety this morning. I felt like anxiety, and it wasn't that. It was, I was grateful that I get to come meet you. You know, we've crossed paths so many times, and it's like, I gotta sit down and talk to you. And as a matter of fact, I need to schedule time with you tomorrow to learn really deep dive more. I wish I could do 2 hours, and I'm sure we could, but time is constrained today, and I want to learn more about the AMP program because I want to loop you into what we're doing, because I love the mantra. We're very similar people, just on the other side of the country or out of the side of the globe. But I'm going to come visit you. I think that sounds like a fun thing to do. It sounds like that's what one of the things, Nick, that I forget to do. This is my short-sighted. I forget to put myself first, and I forget to do things for me. You know, and everybody, working out. And no, that's just my daily discipline. Something I want, I like to travel, and I like to have new experiences. And then, you know, and I push it. I'll do it next year. I'll do it. So I was meeting with this mastermind group, a business mastermind group, and they said, we want you to take 4 straight weeks off of work. And I'm like, huh? So I've taken 2 off, but I'm going to try to do 3 and maybe even 4. So when I do that, I'm going to go travel, and I'm going to come see you. Hopefully you're here. You get here to Florida. I'm actually in Michigan today, but hopefully you'll come see Mom, and I can see you. And we, you know, Shawnee French is, I'm in Bloomfield Hills. So just outside of Detroit.
My sister's in Grand Rapids. We're up in Grand Rapids.
Oh, so which one is she? Is she the single one?
Sister. No, none of them are single, man. But hey, my older sister she's not married, so that to me is single. But she's dating somebody. But Grand Rapids, we're up there a lot. But Estonia, come on out, man. I've actually got a buddy coming out from Charlotte this end of this week. We're gonna jump over to Turkey for a couple of days. But it's a cool part of the world. But putting yourself first, right? It's interesting to hear you say. Because I would say that because for me, working out, that silent solitude and stillness in the morning is something where I'm putting myself first. So it's interesting to hear that for you, you don't view that as putting yourself first. You know, the travel is more the thing that is would be more for you. That's interesting. I appreciate.
Well, several people that are close to me pointed that out. They said you're doing that for Harder Than Life, for charity, for everything else. It's just self-care for me. And it's just I take it for granted. That's where the bar starts. It's, you got to be this tall to ride the ride. So that's why I irritate a lot of people's demons, because my daily, where I start, most people, that's their ceiling. That's just where I'm starting. And I'm not trying to be arrogant or cocky, but you got to remember, I grew up so oppressed and so neglected that what I do today is simply survival for me. It's that little boy surviving. And now it's allowing me to thrive. So all these things I did to just make it through life, you know, in my abusive childhood, are just standards for me now. So I never noticed it till several people said, what do you do for just you? So I read. No, you're doing that to advance your knowledge so you can sound intelligent on your podcast. What do you do for you? And I go to Florida and I go on my boat and I ride my Harleys, and that's about it. Because honestly, when I'm in the gym, I'm listening to a podcast or I'm doing something to advance my mind as well as my body. So I'm always in hyper learn advance mode. And this mastermind I'm in is like, you need to take more time to just unwind and be you, because then you're going to allow space for things to catch up to you and have enlightenment. So that's a big thing. So having said that, define success for me. You already defined happiness. Tell me what success is in the Nick Connor household.
got a message the other day from a guy who wasn't a lead, wasn't a prospect. He said he polled his audience on Instagram that he was looking for husbands and fathers that were great examples of being great husbands and fathers. And he said, your name came up. So he sent me a message. That's success. Success used to be achieving some, financial number or hitting some milestone in sports or something like that, or getting a client and getting a client a result. But what I've learned, man, is like even with clients, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten a client result and then they'll just disappear. They'll go away and they won't ever say anything. They give me testimonials that change their life and then they're gone. And it's like, well, if I'm going to measure my success based on these things, I'm gonna struggle. So for me, man, it's waking up every day and being willing to face uh, whatever it is that I'm feeling and be able to stay in alignment. I call it conscious congruence. Stay in alignment with that man that I'm trying to build the man that I admire in every way and show up and be a gift to the world, being able to transcend myself and positively contribute. And that starts at home, obviously, but a lot of guys will say like, oh, it's all about my family. I'm not going to say that. That's certainly an important part of my life, but ultimately my life's mission is to close this gap between who I know I'm capable of being and being willing to do the work to get there.
Conscious congruence. Wrote that down. Love that. Stealing that. Here's one for you. And I just learned this week. I don't. This is why I love doing what I'm doing. Success for me is inner peace. That's it. If I'm in alignment and I'm conscious congruence, that's literally inner peace. That is success to me. Because if I am at peace inside, good things are going to happen for everybody, man. I tell my daughter all the time, if I am the number one priority, my mind is the number one priority. Because if my mind is right and I'm above ground, she's going to be all right. My whole National Technology Management staff's going to be all right. And now the audience of The Harder Than Life is growing. The world's going to be all right because I'm going to inspire and model. Yeah. And these ain't jokes, man. I'm coming hard.
Yeah, you're here, man. I mean, I've been watching what you're doing and I see the little shifts that you're making and I love it, man. I've been a fan. I think we originally got connected through Craig Siegel and, watching him do his thing and the ripple effect has been inspiring. And then seeing, Sean, you mentioned Sean earlier, made contact with him. So it's great to be in touch with you, man. And you're right. Like it's what I'm hearing from you, because there's people listening that are like, okay, how do I put myself first? For you, it's travel. Nick's saying it's about working out, silence, solitude, and stillness. Ultimately, I think the best gift we can give ourselves is to take care of that mind, get out of our own way so we can transcend ourselves and contribute positively at home, at work. And then if you want to do the social media thing and all of that, like we're doing, you could extend it into that. But you cannot be something for others that you can't already be for yourself. You can't give to others what you aren't able to create and provide for yourself. And that's why this idea of taking care of you as the number one priority is so important. And everything is going to flow through that from my experience. So I hear a lot of things that you're doing, man. And I'm like, he's putting himself first from my perspective. Well, I don't know if you have inner peace, but I'm like, man, he's doing some great stuff to take care of him, be a vessel.
I do. But once you put a goal in front of me, I am maniacal until I freaking achieve it. So everything Harder Than Life is to donate to charity, and we until we write that check, which I will put on social media. It is go time. Don't stand on the tracks when the train's coming through and I'm the train. I love everything you just said, and I tell you, the people we surround ourselves with are very important. I had Shawnee French at my house talking, and his latest level upness, I think, came as a conversation with me. I'd like to say I had something to it, and I kind of had a real tough talk with him on my lanai in Florida. I said, this is what I want you to do, and all of a sudden, he started doing it. I'm like, man, I love that kid. And Craig Siegel connected us all. He and I talk every day, and we're brothers from another mother. So it is who you surround yourself with, and then it's how you don't numb yourself out. It's, people that are giving up and they're acting as cowards are the people that are drinking and drugging and sexing and just not facing life. And I got to tell you, when you do the things that Nick says and I say, how good can you handle life is the question, because my life keeps getting better and it's amazing. So what's the one thing you want the audience to leave with about Nick Connor?
Wow. About me. You normally get a question about them. It's something that they can take away.
Yeah, man, because
No,
you're all the way in Estonia. They don't know who you are.
Look, we're doing some great things in the world of men. I think that there's a conversation around men right now that there's a lack of good men in the world, and I don't buy it. I think that there's just a lot of guys that aren't in the right rooms with the right people. You just touched on the importance of that. And so my work right now is to create a community of high level guys that go out and recruit and bring into an environment a group of men that are looking to get real and be honest and not just look for compassion, but also accept compression and are willing to be held accountable and are willing to do the work, man, to do the hard work and face the hard truths so that they can go out into the world and do bigger and better things. So that's ultimately what we're up to, man. That's the number one priority right now for me. I've worked with men and women in the past, but I really feel called to work with men right now.
But do me a favor and send me an email when we get off this. If you can do this, set time for us to do a Teams meeting or Zoom meeting tomorrow, because I want to loop you into what I'm working on, because you're beautiful and people need to listen to you, and where we're taking this, I want to bring you with it, and then you're going to help us tremendously meet those goals. So that's how you're going to support me. So it's all about me, but what can I do to personally support you?
Well, I always love getting on a call where we can just chop it up. We're moving to Florida. My business is set up in Florida, so we're planning on being there. So you and I will definitely have a chance to meet.
Where in Florida? Naples?
No, we won't go there. A little slow for me. We want to be closer to Miami. There's a lot going on there in terms of events and conferences. So we're looking for Fort Lauderdale area.
When is that going to be?
We don't have a for sure date. We got baby girl in a little pre-K program, but definitely this winter. It gets cold and dark here, brother. I can't wait to get out of here in the coming months. So
it makes me excited, man. I think everything happens for a reason, and I got a lot of stuff going on in Miami. And it's funny, I don't know. What we didn't talk about is being vulnerable. Number one. Number two is making really good choices. So I had a choice to build a house on the east coast of Florida in Fort Lauderdale or West Palm or Boca, or the West Coast. And I chose the West Coast because it met my goals. I want to have a family. I want to be sleepy. I want to be calm. I want to be recharged. And I could very easily be in Miami and rip it up and have a bunch of women and have a bunch of parties and be boating and be in the middle of the scene. And that still makes me excited. But I chose the other side. And I tell you, I'll show you some fun over there that's not sleepy. I'll be hanging out with the Burn Cigar right by your mom's place and partying. And 1 o'clock comes, I turn into a cocoon and I leave. So
well, I'm a cigar guy, so myself.
Oh, I know.
So.
I saw it, man. I'm a freaking, it's my only vice. That and self-love. But having said that, please, if you can't do tomorrow, send me something for Sunday. Let's just get something on the calendar within the next week, because I'm signing some deals that I want to bring you a part in, and see if you want to be a part of it. I think you will. So
yeah. I'll email. Do I email your assistant back?
Yeah, she'll take care of it. And just we'll get it on the calendar. She knows that I want to. Just say Kelly wants to meet with me about this, and it's time. So I have to wrap this up. Please rate and share the podcast. Also, I do my best to respond to all the comments on all social platforms. So if you want to see more of something or less of something, leave a comment. Each and every episode is sponsored by National Technology Management, the easiest and best IT company to do business with, delivering peace of mind with technology every day. Visit trustntm.com for more info. Until next week, be harder than life. Nick, thank you.
Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you for listening. Please rate and subscribe to Harder Than Life, and let's take this to the next level. Get connected at the links below.